Honestly, if I was a Rockets fan, I wouldn't even know what to do at this point. But as the old saying goes, I guess, time is a flat circle. And the Warriors are advancing in the playoffs once again at the expense of the Houston Rockets. It took 3 tries, but the Warriors ended up closing out the series in 7 in Houston, because where else would a team led by Steph and Curry would close out a series against this particular franchise? And it's one where you're down 10 and Steph is scoreless at that point in the first half, and you can't even feel good about, locking Steph up because everybody else is shooting poorly, turning the ball over. Buddy Hield is having the game of his life, the shooting game of his life, and thus a season that was full of promise and another step in the continued development of the Houston Rockets franchise in the Ime Udoka era is cut short, but there is promise, although I'm sure Houston fans don't really feel that right now. But a few things, at least from my point of view, from this series. Obviously, the double lineup with Steven Adams and Şengün was especially effective the last 2 games. Rockets were dominant on the glass again tonight, but that zone really messed up the Rockets' offense, the half-court offense. The Warriors weren't getting killed on the glass like they had been in that Steven Adams-Şengün lineup. Steven Adams only had 2 offensive rebounds, only played 25 minutes, was a -9 after Şengün, Steven Adams minutes were, plus 39 going into Game 7. Draymond, by far the best Şengün defender in this series, was able to play his spins great, was able to use his length to bother his shots. Also, I've noticed this year at least, watching the Rockets, and, I've made videos about Alperen Şengün before, really weird dip this year in 2-point percentage. Missing some bunnies that he normally hit. Last year he had that weird one-legged standstill shot, and he would use that one leg on some floaters and stuff too, but it would go in. But he's missed a lot. Got better, as the season went on, but just overall a dip in 2-point percentage. And he missed a lot of bunnies in this series. Although overall, Şengün had a very good 2-way series. I'm all over the place right now because the game just ended, but just want to talk about the series as a whole for Şengün. I thought he was awesome. Amin Thompson's game tonight was incredible. Obviously was dealing with what looked like some cramps in his left calf, but was really causing Steph to throw some dumb turnovers, in games 5 and 6. Another bad Dillon Brooks game. Stan Van Gundy pointed that out during the broadcast. And the Warriors changed up their coverage on Fred VanVleet throughout the game. And I didn't understand why they were covering him in drop early in the game, especially after we have seen VanVleet light the Warriors up from 3 in games 5 and 6. But they kept doing that. But they finally made the adjustment. They finally brought Draymond to the level, hedged some. Buddy Hield, once again bringing him up. Because aside from the 33 points he had tonight and the 9 of 11 shooting from 3, he played really good defense and played really good defense on Fred VanVleet, who needed to, make up for the fact that Jalen Green once again had single-digit points in this series. Alperen Şengün shot 39%. And with the Jalen Green down games, Fred VanVleet made up for it. Also, one of my biggest gripes in this series with Ime Udoka, not enough Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith should have been at least playing 35 minutes a game in this series. He was on fire from 3. He's 6'10", was also at some points in some games part of a triple big lineup with Şengün and Adams, and that crushed the Warriors. I just really don't understand why Ime Udoka didn't play Jabari Smith more in this series, especially with Tari Eason being ineffective. The Warriors really didn't have an answer for Jabari Smith pick and pops, the offensive rebounding, any of that. Really, the only stop in this series the Warriors have had against Jabari Smith was the post-up tonight where Jabari Smith tried to back down Steph, and Steph literally moved Jabari Smith off of his center of gravity and kind of moved him off his spot. But Ime Udoka should have been playing Jabari Smith more in this series. As far as the Warriors, I thought Steve Kerr coached a really good series. I thought he was pressing the right buttons. He might have over-indexed a little bit sometimes with, not playing Looney enough against Steven Adams, which I thought was a big reason why the double big lineups weren't as effective tonight. Kevon Looney and Draymond Green played more together, and that's an old tried and true group from the past few seasons, right? I thought as far as X's and O's and stuff, I actually thought Steve Kerr coached a pretty good series. It's just that, the Rockets eventually found something with that Adams Şengün double big lineup. They were crushing the Warriors, and the Warriors were looking small, old, and tired in Games 5, which they punted effectively, and Game 6. And I was really tempted to count out the Warriors. But I have seen a legendary Steph performance in Game 7s before in person a few years ago in Sacramento here in my backyard. And you just can't count out Jimmy Butler either. And by the way, I'm sure a lot of people who bet the under on Draymond Green points for this game were pissed by the first quarter because Draymond Green scored like 8 points immediately, had 2 threes, a layup. Draymond Green isn't scared of Game 7s. And it was funny, I saw a tweet that was like, Draymond Green already has more points in a Game 7 than James Harden did yesterday. And it's like, that was pretty funny. But yeah, like, unironically, Draymond Green is not afraid of Game 7s. He literally might have the best forgotten Game 7 performance in an NBA Finals in history. Like, he's not scared of the moment. And he might airball threes, he might brick some layups, but Draymond Green's going to bring it in Game 7, and he did tonight with a little bit of scoring, defense, because I thought the last few games, his lack of scoring, the Rockets were able to zone up on that. There was a lot of zone in this series, too. But it really just felt like, by the end of it, the Rockets' ineptitude in the half court, shutting off Fred VanVleet's water tonight, and, Şengün not playing as well offensively, that just did them in. The Warriors mixed it up with zone. They were better gang rebounding. And Buddy Hield, which Game 7s can provide some funkiness like this or some, random variance. Buddy Hield caught fire. Like Buddy Hield can catch fire. And that just goes on a long list of heartbreaking events for a fan base that has been tortured by this Golden State Warriors team. I mean, you got the 7 missed threes in the 2018 conference finals, or was it 2018. You got Steph Curry closing out the Rockets in Game 6 with 33 points in the second half in what was, I'm pretty sure, was the 2019 Western Conference semifinals against the Rockets. Remember in the 2015 Western Conference finals, James Harden had, 12 turnovers in that game before the Warriors booted them up out of there in 5? That was 2015. We're in 2025. It's been a solid decade of this shit. I'm sorry, Houston fans. But y'all have a bright future, and I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up your ass and try to make you feel better. Amen Thompson was fantastic tonight. The vets you guys signed 2 summers ago, and I remember everybody's reaction to those signings. Nobody liked those Rocket signings, except for me. I thought they were fine, and I even made a video about it saying that, actually these signings make sense. But I'm interested to see where the Rockets go from here. I really am. Because this Jalen Green thing is going to linger over this team's ultimate ceiling for the next few years. They have the coach in place. They have the culture in place. They have the roster versatility and size in place. And we've been wondering all season what's going to be the answer to the Rockets' shitty half-court offense. Yes, their offensive rating is better than you'd think, but in the half-court, they always stink. And I thought Şengün conducted himself well in this series. I thought Amen Thompson conducted himself well in this series. And I thought Jalen Green played like how Jalen Green always does. And as a Jalen Green stockholder, now looking to sell my stock on the internet, I'm kind of, sad by this. But if you just look at his other draft mates, Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham, Franz Wagner, you just feel more comfortable with those guys going forward. And Jalen Green kind of has just been stuck in the same zone of, I'm going to have a hot 3 months, and my play is dependent on whether this pull-up three-pointer is working. And while I am explosive and a very wiry athlete, I don't have enough flexibility and bend to take advantage of switches like a number one creator would. And I'm also not really that good of a playmaker. Tries his ass off defensively because that's required on an Ime Udoka team, but they really got to figure out this Jalen Green thing because they have the big to run some elbow stuff through, DHOs and all that stuff. That's the guy that diversifies your offensive portfolio. But you always, and I have always said this on this channel, you need to pair a really good big with a really dynamic and good perimeter player. And Jalen Green was supposed to be that. But as we keep going forward, I'm not so sure. And we can say Amen Thompson's there and, Amen Thompson, keep him forever. But you hope he'll be able to add some, variety and be a threat from the perimeter, shooting the ball, all that stuff. But they do have a pertinent issue on their hands. Now, they can take their time figuring it out because they're going to win a lot of games. But I think this series, you could also just boil it down to the Warriors had Steph and Jimmy and Draymond as well, and the Rockets didn't.